The Broken Promise. Captain Maria Santos stood before the massive crystalline doors of the Confederacy High Council, her breathing steady despite the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. Today would mark the end of humanity's 15-year journey toward acceptance among the stars. Behind those doors waited representatives from over 60 alien civilizations, each one holding a piece of Earth's future in their hands. The corridor stretched endlessly in both directions, its walls made from some translucent material that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. Maria had walked this path 3 times before during the preliminary negotiations, but today felt different. Today felt final. Her second-in-command, Commander Jake Morrison, adjusted his formal uniform one last time. The fabric felt strange against his skin, woven from fibers gifted by the Veltar as a gesture of potential friendship. Everything about this moment had been carefully orchestrated by the Confederacy protocols, from the timing of their arrival to the color of their clothing. "Nervous?" Morrison asked quietly, his voice echoing slightly in the vast space. Maria shook her head, though her fingers unconsciously traced the small Earth insignia pinned to her chest. "Excited. We've worked too hard and come too far to be nervous now." The journey had begun when humanity first achieved faster-than-light travel and immediately encountered the Stellar Confederacy patrol ships. Instead of the violent first contact that Earth's science fiction had always predicted, the aliens had been cautiously welcoming. They offered humanity a chance to prove themselves worthy of joining the galactic community. 15 years of careful diplomacy had followed. Earth had dismantled its nuclear weapons. Humanity had established peaceful colonies on 12 worlds, each one a model of environmental harmony and interspecies cooperation. Human scientists had shared their knowledge freely, while human artists had contributed to the Confederacy's cultural exchanges. Every test had been passed. Every requirement had been met. Every demonstration of peaceful intent had been accepted, with what seemed like approval from the alien council members. The crystalline doors began to part with a sound like singing wind chimes. Beyond them lay the council chamber, a sphere so vast that its far walls disappeared into a soft, glowing mist. Floating platforms held representatives from dozens of species, each one adapted to their own atmospheric and gravitational preferences. Maria recognized many of the faces as she entered: the tall, elegant Zephyrians with their feathered crests, the squat, powerful Korath with their stone-like skin, the ethereal Luminos whose bodies seemed to be made of controlled energy. All of them had interacted with humanity during the long evaluation period. At the center of the chamber, a single platform waited for the human delegation. Maria and Morrison took their positions, along with Dr. Sarah Kim, Earth's chief xenobiologist, and Ambassador David Chen, who had spent more time in alien space than any other human. The Zephyrian Prime Speaker, Talesh, rose from her platform. Her voice carried clearly across the vast space, translated instantly by the neural implants all council members wore. "We gather today to conclude the evaluation of Species 847, designation Human, from the Sol system. After 15 standard cycles of observation and testing, the Confederacy Council will render its final judgment on their application for membership." Maria felt her heart rate increase slightly. This was the moment they had all worked toward. "The human species has demonstrated technical competence," Talesh continued. "They have shown cultural adaptability and scientific curiosity. Their colonies have maintained environmental balance, and their interactions with Confederacy members have been peaceful." Morrison caught Maria's eye and gave her a subtle thumbs up. This sounded like the beginning of an acceptance speech, but then Talesh's tone shifted, becoming colder and more formal. "However, the Council has discovered disturbing evidence that calls into question humanity's true intentions." Maria's stomach dropped. "What evidence?" she called out, her voice carrying clearly in the chamber's perfect acoustics. A Korath delegate named Stonesinger Thex activated a holographic display. Images began appearing in the air above the central platform. Maria's breath caught in her throat as she recognized them. Ship schematics, military training exercises, defensive strategies for human colonies. communication protocols for emergency situations. These files were recovered from human data networks. Thex rumbled, his voice like grinding rocks. They detail military preparations for conflict with Confederacy forces. Those are defensive measures, Maria said quickly. Every species maintains some form of protection for their people. Defensive measures that specifically target Confederacy ship designs and known tactical approaches, added a Luminos delegate whose name translated as Bright Thought. Why would a peaceful species prepare so thoroughly for war against their potential allies? Ambassador Chen stepped forward. Because we learned from history, humanity has experienced conquest and colonization. We prepared for the possibility that not every species in the galaxy might welcome us peacefully. Yet you hid these preparations from us, Talesh said. You presented yourselves as completely peaceful while secretly developing weapons and strategies to fight us. Dr. Kim joined the conversation. We were transparent about maintaining defensive capabilities. We never claimed to be completely helpless. The level of military planning we discovered goes far beyond simply defense, Stone Singer Thex replied. These documents show detailed analysis of every Confederacy species' military weaknesses, contingency plans for guerrilla warfare, and strategies for disrupting our supply lines. Morrison stepped closer to Maria. How did they get classified Earth Defense Force files? He whispered. Maria was wondering the same thing. Those documents were stored on secure networks that had no connection to the systems the Confederacy had been given access to. There's something else, Bright Thought announced. The holographic display shifted to show communication intercepts. We have been monitoring human communications for patterns of deception or hostile intent. What we found was disturbing. The display showed message fragments between human military commanders, colonial administrators, and government officials. Taken out of context, they painted a picture of a species preparing for eventual conflict with alien neighbors. These messages clearly show that humanity views the Confederacy as a temporary inconvenience, Talesh declared. Your people speak privately of the day when human expansion will no longer be constrained by alien approval. Maria felt a cold realization settling over her. The Confederacy had been conducting comprehensive surveillance of human communications throughout the entire evaluation period. Not just the official diplomatic channels, but private military networks, personal messages, and classified government communications. You've been spying on us, she said, her voice cutting through the chamber. We've been protecting ourselves, Talesh replied, and our investigation has revealed that humanity poses an unacceptable risk to Confederacy security and stability. The voting began immediately. One by one, each species cast their decision. The results appeared as colored lights on the chamber walls. Red for rejection, blue for acceptance. Red light after red light appeared. The Zephyrians voted no. The Korath voted no. The Luminos voted no. Species after species that had seemed friendly during the evaluation period now declared humanity too dangerous to join their community. The final tally was overwhelming. 58 species voted for rejection. Only 4 voted for acceptance, and Maria recognized them as the youngest members of the Confederacy, species that had been admitted within the last century. The decision is final, Talesh announced. Humanity is denied membership in the Stellar Confederacy. Furthermore, all human presence in Confederacy space must cease within 30 standard days. All colonies, research stations, and diplomatic posts will be evacuated. You can't do that, Dr. Kim protested. We have over 1 million people living in 12 colonies. They have homes, families, entire lives built in those systems. They should have considered that before their species proved itself untrustworthy, Stone Singer Thex replied. Morrison stepped forward, his usual diplomatic calm cracking. What happens to the mixed families? Humans married to Confederacy citizens? Children with dual heritage? Confederacy citizens may remain, Bright Thought said. Humans must leave. Maria watched the alien delegates beginning to depart, their decision made and their business concluded. 15 years of work, 15 years of hope, destroyed in a single session. But as she watched them leave, Something bothered her about their behavior. There was no regret in their movements, no sign that this had been a difficult decision. They moved with the efficiency of people executing a plan they had already decided upon. "Ambassador," Morrison said quietly, "we need to contact Earth immediately. The evacuation timeline is going to be almost impossible to meet." As they left the council chamber, Maria's mind was racing. Nay. Something about the entire proceeding felt wrong. The surveillance capabilities the Confederacy had demonstrated were far more extensive than they had ever admitted. The speed of the decision suggested it had been predetermined. Back on their ship, the Endeavor, Maria gathered her senior staff in the briefing room. The weight of failure pressed down on all of them, but Maria found herself focusing on the questions rather than the disappointment. How did they get access to classified EDF networks? She asked Lieutenant Commander Torres, their chief of communications. Torres looked uncomfortable. "The quantum communication relay system we've been using for the past 8 years. The one the Zephyrians helped us build to communicate with Earth instantly across interstellar distances." "Are you saying they built backdoors into our own communication system?" Morrison asked. "I'm saying it's possible," Torres replied. "If they understand the quantum entanglement principles better than we do, they could theoretically intercept and decode any message sent through the network." Dr. Kim leaned forward. "That means they've been reading our private communications for 8 years. They knew about every defensive plan, every strategic discussion, every private doubt about their intentions." "Which means," Maria said slowly, "this entire evaluation period was a sham. They were never seriously considering us for membership. They were studying us." The implications were staggering. For 8 years, the Confederacy had been learning everything about human military capabilities, political structures, economic systems, and social organization. They had encouraged humanity to establish colonies in specific systems, then observed how humans adapted to different environments and challenges. They were evaluating us as a potential threat, Morrison realized, not as potential allies. Maria activated the ship's communication system. "Get me Admiral Rodriguez at EDF Command. Priority Alpha encryption." "I'm saying it's possible," Torres replied. "If they understand the quantum entanglement principles better than we do, they could theoretically intercept and decode any message sent through the network." Dr. Kim leaned forward. "That means they've been reading our private communications for 8 years. They knew about every defensive plan, every strategic discussion, every private doubt about their intentions." "Which means," Maria said slowly, "this entire evaluation period was a sham. They were never seriously considering us for membership. They were studying us." The implications were staggering. For 8 years, the Confederacy had been learning everything about human military capabilities, political structures, economic systems, and social organization. They had encouraged humanity to establish colonies in specific systems, then observed how humans adapted to different environments and challenges. They were evaluating us as a potential threat, Morrison realized, not as potential allies. Maria activated the ship's communication system. "Get me Admiral Rodriguez at EDF Command. Priority Alpha encryption." The transmission took several minutes to establish, even with the quantum relay system. When Admiral Rodriguez appeared on the screen, his expression was grim. "Captain Santos, I was hoping you'd contact us soon. We've been receiving some disturbing intelligence from our deep space monitoring stations. Sir, the Confederacy has rejected our membership application and ordered all humans to evacuate their space within 30 days. Rodriguez's expression darkened. "That explains what our sensors have been detecting. Confederacy fleet movements toward human colonies began 3 days ago. They started moving before you even attended the council session." The betrayal was complete. The Confederacy had not only predetermined their rejection of humanity, they had begun military actions before the decision was officially announced. "Sir, we believe they've been monitoring all human communications through the quantum relay network. They may know everything about our defensive capabilities and strategic planning." "Negative, Captain," Rodriguez replied with a slight smile. We've suspected Confederacy surveillance for the past 2 years. All truly classified information has been transmitted through alternative methods they don't have access to. What alternative methods, sir? Old-fashioned light-speed radio transmissions and physical courier ships. Takes longer, but it's secure. The Confederacy may think they know everything about human military capabilities, but they're in for some surprises. Maria felt a spark of hope. What are your orders, Admiral? Begin evacuation of non-essential personnel from all colonies immediately. But, Captain, the evacuation ships won't be defenseless, and some of our colonists might choose to stay and fight for their homes. Sir, the Confederacy has overwhelming numerical superiority. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours in many areas. Rodriguez's smile grew wider. They have superior individual ships and weapons, Captain, but they've never faced an enemy that thinks the way humans do. They've been studying our defensive strategies, but they don't understand our offensive capabilities. The transmission ended, leaving Maria staring at a blank screen. Around the briefing table, her officers were looking at her expectantly. So what now? Morrison asked. Maria stood up and walked to the viewport. Outside, she could see Confederacy patrol ships beginning to take positions around the station where humanity's diplomatic mission had been based. They moved with mechanical precision, following standard protocols. Now we show them what happens when you underestimate human determination, she said. Mr. Torres, send a message to all human colonies and outposts. Use the old radio frequencies, not the quantum relay. Tell them the evacuation is beginning, but also tell them that Earth hasn't forgotten them. As the Endeavour began its journey back to human space, Maria watched the stars and thought about the long road ahead. The Confederacy believed they understood humanity based on 15 years of observation and 8 years of communication surveillance. They were about to learn the difference between knowing about humans and truly understanding what humanity was capable of when pushed to the edge. The Silent Storm. 6 months had passed since the Confederacy's betrayal, and Admiral Chen Rodriguez stood in the command center of Outpost Defiance, a hollowed-out asteroid drifting in the dark space between star systems. The facility had been humanity's most classified military project, unknown to the Confederacy and invisible to their sensors. Around him, dozens of officers worked at stations that hummed with quiet efficiency. The displays showed positions of human ships scattered across 3 sectors, refugee movements from abandoned colonies, and most importantly, the locations of Confederacy forces that had occupied former human territories. Admiral, incoming transmission from Ghost Squadron, announced Lieutenant Sarah Walsh from her communications station. Rodriguez turned to the main display as Captain Santos appeared, her face transmitted through heavily encrypted channels that the Confederacy still hadn't learned to decode. Behind her, he could see the bridge of her new ship, the Phantom Strike, one of humanity's revolutionary stealth vessels. Report, Captain. We've completed reconnaissance of the Kepler 442 system, sir. The Confederacy has converted our research status into a detention facility. They're holding approximately 800 human civilians there, including families with children. Rodriguez felt the familiar weight of command decisions pressing down on him. Each choice he made affected the lives of millions of humans scattered across the galaxy, most of them now trapped behind enemy lines. Security assessment? 2 Zephyrian battleships in orbit, plus a Korath defense platform. Ground installations include energy barriers and automated defense systems. It's designed to repel a rescue attempt. Good, Rodriguez said, surprising Santos with his response. That means they're expecting us to try something conventional. The Admiral turned to address the wider command center. Dr. Kozlov, please join us. Dr. Elena Kozlov approached the display, carrying a tablet covered with complex equations. She was humanity's leading expert on quantum physics and the architect of their new technological advantages. Her work during the 6 months since the betrayal had given humanity weapons the Confederacy couldn't detect or counter. Doctor, is the quantum disruption array ready for field testing? Kozlov nodded, though her expression remained cautious. The theory is sound, and our simulations show a 93% probability of success. However, we've never tested it against live Confederacy shields. Rodriguez studied the tactical display showing the Kepler 442 system. The Confederacy forces were positioned exactly as their military doctrine prescribed, creating overlapping fields of fire and mutual support. It was a textbook defensive arrangement that would stop any conventional assault. Security assessment: 2 Zephyrian battleships in orbit, plus a Korath defense platform. Ground installations include energy barriers and automated defense systems. It's designed to repel a rescue attempt. Good, Rodriguez said, surprising Santos with his response. That means they're expecting us to try something conventional. The Admiral turned to address the wider command center. Dr. Kozlov, please join us. Dr. Elena Kozlov approached the display, carrying a tablet covered with complex equations. She was humanity's leading expert on quantum physics and the architect of their new technological advantages. Her work during the 6 months since the betrayal had given humanity weapons the Confederacy couldn't detect or counter. Doctor, is the quantum disruption array ready for field testing? Kozlov nodded, though her expression remained cautious. The theory is sound, and our simulations show a 93% probability of success. However, we've never tested it against live Confederacy shields. Rodriguez studied the tactical display showing the Kepler 442 system. The Confederacy forces were positioned exactly as their military doctrine prescribed, creating overlapping fields of fire and mutual support. It was a textbook defensive arrangement that would stop any conventional assault. Explain the plan for Captain Santos. Kozlov activated her tablet, and technical schematics appeared on the main display. The quantum disruption array creates localized distortions in space-time, effectively making matter phase in and out of normal reality. When applied to energy shields, it causes them to become unstable and collapse. In simple terms, Rodriguez added, we can make their defenses disappear without firing a shot. Santos looked intrigued but concerned. What about their ships? That's where our new friends come in, Rodriguez said with a slight smile. Show her the Ghost Fleet, Commander Morrison. Morrison, who had been promoted and assigned to coordinate the stealth operations, activated another display. It showed dozens of ship signatures, but these weren't like anything the Confederacy had encountered before. We've been busy during the evacuation period, Morrison explained. Every human ship that escaped Confederacy space has been modified with stealth technology based on principles the aliens never shared with us. They can't detect us coming, and they can't track us when we leave. How is that possible? Santos asked. Dr. Kozlov answered. The Confederacy's sensor technology relies on detecting electromagnetic signatures and gravitational distortions. Our stealth system doesn't hide these signatures. It mimics the background radiation of empty space. To their sensors, our ships look like cosmic dust clouds. Rodriguez walked to a tactical table that displayed the entire region of space where the crisis was unfolding. Red markers showed Confederacy positions. Blue markers showed human refugee populations. Green markers showed the hidden locations of humanity's new military assets. The Confederacy made several critical errors in their assessment of humanity, he began. First, they assumed our military thinking was limited to the strategies they observed during their surveillance. Second, they believed their technology was so superior that human tactics couldn't overcome it. Third, they thought breaking up our colonies would break our spirit. He touched a control, and the display zoomed in on multiple systems simultaneously. They were wrong on all counts. While they were reading our official communications and studying our defensive postures, our real preparations were happening through networks they never discovered. Santos was beginning to understand. The evacuation wasn't just about saving civilians. Santos was beginning to understand. The evacuation wasn't just about saving civilians. The evacuation was cover for the largest military redeployment in human history, Rodriguez confirmed. Every supposedly defenseless transport ship that left Confederacy space was carrying components for new weapons systems. Every refugee convoy included military specialists disguised as civilians. Every abandoned colony left behind sensor networks and automated systems that are still feeding us intelligence. Morrison stepped forward. Captain, we now have real-time information about Confederacy fleet movements, communication patterns, and tactical responses. They think they're occupying empty human territories, but they're actually operating in the middle of our intelligence network. Dr. Kozlov added her own contribution to the briefing. More importantly, their occupation of our colonies gave us access to their technology. Every piece of equipment they left unguarded, every communication relay they established, every sensor array they deployed, we've been studying all of it. Rodriguez activated a new display showing technical specifications. Turns out the Confederacy's greatest strength is also their greatest weakness. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but it's standardized across all member species. Every ship uses the same shield generators. Every weapon system follows the same power distribution patterns. Every communication network operates on the same protocols. Which means, Santos realized, once you figure out how to counter one system, you can counter all of them. Exactly. And we've had 6 months to study their systems while they've been learning nothing new about ours. The Admiral gestured to the tactical display showing Confederacy positions throughout human space. Operation Silent Storm begins in 72 hours. Simultaneous strikes on every sea, on Confederacy installation holding human prisoners. The goal isn't just rescue, it's to demonstrate that the Confederacy made a serious mistake when they decided to betray humanity. Santos studied the display, noting the ambitious scope of the operation. Sir, this plan requires precise coordination across dozens of light years. The timing will have to be perfect. That's why we're using quantum entanglement communicators of our own design, Dr. Kozlov explained. Unlike the compromise system the Confederacy gave us, these are based on principles we developed independently. Instantaneous, secure communication across any distance. Rodriguez walked to the command center's main window, looking out at the stars. Captain, the Confederacy believes they've neutralized humanity as a threat. They think we're scattered, demoralized refugees, grateful for whatever scraps of territory they might allow us to keep. He turned back to face the assembled officers. They're about to learn that humans don't retreat. We regroup. We don't surrender, we adapt. And when someone threatens our families and our freedom, we don't just fight back. We make sure it never happens again. The next 72 hours passed in a blur of final preparations. Ghost fleet ships moved into position around Confederacy installations, invisible to alien sensors. Quantum disruption arrays were calibrated and tested. Rescue teams reviewed detailed intelligence about prisoner locations and security measures. Captain Santos commanded one of 12 strike groups participating in Operation Silent Storm. Her target was the Kepler 442 detention facility, but her mission was part of a coordinated assault that would hit Confederacy positions simultaneously across 3 sectors. As the Phantom strike approached the system, its crew could see the alien ships exactly where their intelligence had predicted. 2 Massites. Zephyrian battleships hung in orbit above the planet where human civilians were being held. The Korath defense platform bristled with weapons designed to destroy any rescue attempt. "All stations report ready," announced her tactical officer, Lieutenant Hayes. Santos activated the fleet communication system. "Ghost Squadron, this is Phantom Strike. Beginning operation in T-minus 60 seconds. Remember, we're not just saving our people today, we're sending a message." On her tactical display, she could see the positions of her squadron's 6 ships, all invisible to Confederacy sensors. Similar displays throughout human space showed dozens of other strike groups preparing their own assaults. "T-minus 10 seconds, Hayes announced. Quantum disruption array powering up." Santos watched the alien ships, knowing that their crews had no idea what was about to happen. The Confederacy had studied human defensive strategies for 8 years, but they had never seen humanity truly on the attack. Array active, Confederacy shields are destabilizing. On the display, Santos watched the energy barriers around the alien ships flicker and fail. Emergency lights began flashing on the Confederacy vessels as their crews realized their primary defenses had mysteriously disappeared. "All ships begin assault," Santos ordered. The Ghost Fleet struck like a hurricane emerging from empty space. human ships appeared from nowhere, their weapons locked onto targets that had seemed safely protected moments before. The element of surprise was absolute. The Zephyrian battleships tried to respond, but their shots passed harmlessly through the positions where human ships appeared to be. The Ghost Fleet's stealth technology made accurate targeting impossible for the alien gunners. Meanwhile, human weapons found their marks with devastating precision. Years of studying Confederacy technology had revealed exactly where to hit each class of ship for maximum effect. The attacks weren't designed to destroy the alien vessels, but to disable them completely. Within minutes, both Zephyrian battleships were drifting powerless. The Korath defense platform had shut down entirely, its crew evacuating in escape pods. Similar scenes were playing out simultaneously in dozens of other systems as the full scope of Operation Silent Storm unfolded. Santos led her Marines in the rescue operation on the planet's surface. The detention facility's barriers had failed along with everything else, and the human prisoners were already organizing themselves when the rescue teams arrived. "Are you real?" asked Dr. Jennifer Walsh, a xenobiologist who had been held prisoner for 6 months. "We're real, and we're taking everyone home," Santos replied. As the evacuation proceeded, Santos received reports from other strike groups. Every mission was succeeding. Thousands of human prisoners were being freed. Confederacy installations were being neutralized without significant human casualties. But the most important success was strategic. The Confederacy had been completely surprised by humanity's capabilities. Their intelligence estimates had been proven catastrophically wrong. Admiral Rodriguez appeared on the communication display as Santos's ships prepared to depart the system. "Captain, preliminary reports from all sectors. Operation Silent Storm is a complete success. Over 15,000 human civilians rescued. 0 Confederacy installations in former human space remain operational." "What about their response, sir?" "That's the interesting part. They're not mounting an immediate counterattack. Our intelligence suggests they're holding emergency sessions to figure out how we did this. They're finally beginning to understand that they never really knew humanity at all." Santos looked at the rescued prisoners filling her ship's cargo bays and transport areas. Families were being reunited. Children were laughing for the first time in months. Scientists and colonists who had built their lives among the stars were heading home to human space. But more than that, humanity had proven something important. They had shown the Confederacy that betrayal came with a price, and that humans would not be intimidated or scattered by alien politics. "Sir, what happens now?" Rodriguez smiled. "Now we build something better than what we lost. The Confederacy wanted us to remain isolated in the Sol system, but we've established secure territories in 17 systems they can't reach. Our colonies are stronger and more advanced than ever. And the Confederacy? They'll have to decide whether they want to live in peace with a free humanity, or whether they want to learn just how dangerous humans can be when we're truly threatened. Either way, we've made it clear that we don't need their permission to thrive among the stars." As the Ghost Fleet disappeared back into the darkness between stars, Santos reflected on how much had changed in 6 months. The Confederacy had thought they were eliminating a potential threat by rejecting humanity. Instead, they had created exactly the kind of enemy they had been afraid of. Humans with nothing left to lose, and everything to prove. The stars no longer belonged to the Confederacy alone. Humanity had claimed their place in the galaxy, not through diplomacy or permission, but through determination, ingenuity, and the unshakable resolve to protect their own. The universe was about to become a much more interesting place.